Welcome back. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to calculate the return of an investment when we know the present value and the future value, and then I'm going to show you how to calculate the number of periods, or the number of years, the number of months, until your present value appreciates to your future value, or your present value depreciates to your future value. I guess we won't be able to do that one, but all right, so let's take a look at our first example. So in this example, we're going to calculate the return on an investment. So in this example, you paid $96.87 per share of Apple stock 3 years ago. The stock pays a $1 dividend at the end of every year, and the stock is currently worth $150.21. So that would be 3 years after we bought it. So our FV is obviously going to be $150.21. What has your annual return on this stock been? All right, so there are a couple of different ways that we could work this problem. We could try and calculate it by hand, but by far the easiest way to go about solving this problem is just by using the buttons on the BA2 calculator, those time value of money buttons that are so crucial. So what I'm going to start out doing is showing you this example using the timeline of cash flows. So I'm going to grab my my Sharpie and paper and draw it out. All right, so in this example, we started investing 3 years ago. However, usually when you draw out this timeline of cash flows, if you choose to do it, it's often easier to just go ahead and start at zero and work your way forward rather than using, say, year -1, year -2, year -3. It's your own preference, obviously. I mean, this is really just to illustrate the cash flows that we're receiving and paying out. So our cash flows in this case are going to be a negative $96.87 in year zero, because that's what we are paying out to purchase a share of stock of Apple. And then in year one, or at the end of year one, we receive a $1 dividend. At the end of year two, we receive a $1 dividend. And at the end of year three, so today, so 3 years after we invested, we receive a $1 dividend, plus this stock is worth $150.21. So here, our total cash flow is actually $151.21, but it's made up or comprised of two components. The first is our FV, and the second is our PMT. So if we're trying to calculate the annual return on this stock, what we're going to have to do is use the time value of money buttons. And in this case, we have all the information we need. We know that our PV, which is the amount that we originally invested all the way back 3 years ago, is a negative $96.87. We know that we're investing for 1, 2, 3 years. So N is equal to 3. We know that our PMT is equal to 1 because that's the size of each of the annual dividends that we receive. And lastly, our FV is just the additional amount that we receive or pay beyond that final cash payment. So in this case, it's the value of that stock if we were to sell it today, aka at the end of this investment. So 150.21, and that's a positive. All right, so let's work this problem. So right away, when I pull up my calculator, you probably see that I have it in beginning mode. I'm going to need to set it to end mode in order to work this problem. So I'm going to hit second, payment, second, enter, and now we're back in end mode, which means that any payment that we enter, the calculator is going to record that as a payment occurring at the end of each period, just like how most payments work. in the real world. All right, so our PV here, let's clear our time value of money buttons. Our PV is 96 or negative $96.87. So I'll put in $96.87 and set it to negative and press PV. Next, our N is 3, so 3N. Our payment is 1, so I'll hit 1 and then PMT. And lastly, our future value is 150.21. And all we need to do to calculate the return on our stock investment is just hit CPT or compute and I divided by Y. Now in this example, we find that our I divided by Y is 16.64%. This tells us that our annual return, our average return over this period has been 16.64%. So that's how we calculate our return on an investment, or our annual return on an investment. All right, now let's work a problem where we need to calculate the number of periods to accumulate a certain amount of capital. So there's all kinds of reasons why we might want to do this. We might want to know, let's say we already know our expected return on an investment, we might want to know how many years we need to invest to accumulate the right amount of money that we would need to retire, for example. We might want to know how many years we would need to invest a certain amount of money, say a fixed payment, in order to be able to put our kids through college. There's all kinds of examples why we would want to be able to calculate the number of periods, or the N, in order to, the N for which we need to invest. All right, so let's take a look at this example. You have $10,000 in your checking account today. If you invest that money in a mutual fund that offers 8.65% annually and invest a further $3,000 at the end of every year, how long will it take for you to accumulate $30,000? All right, so I'm going to draw this out on our timeline of cash flows, just so you can see what exactly we're doing just on pen and paper, or using Sharpie and paper. All right, so at the start of this investing period, we have $10,000 in our checking account. We're going to say that we're going to invest that immediately, which means that that is a $10,000 cash outflow, so negative $10,000. Now, at the end of every year after that, we are going to be investing $3,000. So at the end of year 1, we're investing $3,000. At the end of year 2, we're investing $3,000. At the end of year 3, and so on and so forth, we're investing $3,000. Now, because we don't know our goal here is to find out how many years we need to invest to accumulate $30,000, that should say dollars instead of years. Well, there we go. All right, so the way we're going to do this is we are going to input certain values in our time value of money buttons, and we are going to solve for N. So in this case, our present value is negative $10,000. That's the amount we initially invest. Next, our payment here, because we're making investments of $3,000, those are cash outflows. So from our perspective, our payment is actually a negative $3,000. Next, we know that our future value, that amount that we need to accumulate, is $30,000. And finally, we know that the mutual fund that we're investing in will likely offer us an 8.65% annual return. So I divided by Y is 8.65. So let's get to it. So I'm going to clear my time value of money buttons, and our FV is $30,000. So 30,000 FV. Our payment is negative $3,000, so I'll hit 3,000, the plus or minus sign, and then the payment button. Next, we'll get our present value set to negative $10,000, so negative $10,000 PV, and our I divided by Y is 8.65. Lastly, we're going to compute N. So in this case, when we hit the CPT button and then N, we find that it's going to take 4 years and some additional amount of time to accumulate $30,000 if we're putting in $33,000 a year and we have these criteria set. So almost four and a half years it's going to take us to accumulate $30,000. So that's how we would determine the amount of time that we need to invest in order to accumulate that much capital. So that's all I have.